Welcome to Tina's Timepieces. I'm Tina, and today what I would like to do is work on this clone movement. And it is a movement that originally was in a pocket watch, and as time moved forward, our wristwatches got bigger, and now the pocket watch movement fits in a wristwatch. So this is just a bit of a larger movement than you'll see with a lot of wristwatches. So this is a movement that a lot of new watchmakers choose to practice on in the beginning because it is bigger. And the other advantage is that this movement is a Swiss movement, so it is similar to a lot of movements that are out in watches. So once you get used to these parts, where they are, how they work, it will transfer to many of the watches out there. So I am quite excited to get this project going. So we might as well get going here. First thing we're going to do on this watch is remove the balance wheel and balance bridge. These are the most fragile parts on the watch. So we want to remove those first just to keep them safe. All right, so we will remove this screw. And normally I would wear gloves, but this is pretty much a junk movement. It was brand new, but I've done some practice with it and lost a couple parts and messed up the hairspring. So I'm just going to use this for practice and get better at it so I don't lose anything on the next one I do. So I'm going to continue taking this apart. And the next thing we'll do is the pallet fork, and then the pallet is below it. And the pallet is another fragile part. And as you can see, I've lost one of the screws there with my butter fingers. And the more I practice, the better I get. That is why I did not do a video the first couple times, because I was not too good with the tweezers or the screwdriver. And whenever you take a part out, it's best to flip it over and make sure there is no damage on the back side. And get the pallet fork out gently, because the jewels are extremely fragile. All right, the next step is to make sure that there is no tension in this mainspring barrel here. So what we would do is just take the winding stem, rotate it just so that it starts to go forward. Then we would hold it back and gently, slowly release the tension with the crown on the winding stem. Since this is without the winding stem, we know there's no power, so we don't need to do that. So the next thing we would do is flip it over and we would want to remove the cannon pinion. You can remove the cannon pinion with a pair of tweezers, or there are a couple types of tools for removing cannon pinions. I have this Presto tool here that makes it quite quick and easy. You just set it on there, squeeze the sides, pull up, and presto, there's your cannon pinion. And now that that is done, flip this back around. And the next thing I will do is loosen the screw for the click and click spring. And then we will do the ratchet wheel and the crown wheel. Now the crown wheel typically is reverse threaded. Sometimes it will have 3 lines on it showing that it is a reverse thread, and sometimes it does not, like this one. What you would do is gently turn it clockwise to see if it is reverse threaded, and if it is, then continue. If it does not move, then you would go counterclockwise. But typically, the crown wheel will be a reverse threaded screw. And now these two screws do look the same, but we need to keep them separate because this one is reverse thread. I've got a little parts holder here I'm putting everything in. Look at the crown wheel here. And sometimes the crown wheel will have this crown ring that needs to be removed. And here's the ratchet wheel that connects to the barrel with our mainspring. And now we can do the click and our click spring. And now that we have those items removed, we can work on the bridges. We have the barrel bridge with 3 screws and the train of wheels bridge with 2 screws. So as long as I have the screwdriver, I'm going to loosen all 5 screws. And on this particular movement, not all movements, but this one, these 5 screws are identical. So you would want to, as you take things apart, check the screws, make sure the heads are the same, you know, flat head, round head. Check the length of the screws and check the threads of the screws because they can look the same but actually be very different. All right. Now when we release these bridges, there are notches on the side here. Oops. Okay, there's one here And then there's one over here that we can use our screwdriver and insert it and just gently pry up. And then the same over here. All these parts underneath these red or pinkish jewels, there are pivots, and those pivots are very fragile. So we want to carefully lift up on our bridges, and especially this one, we want to make sure we lift straight up. So now we have the barrel and the train of wheels. This is our center wheel. It has the longer pivot on it. Then we have our fourth wheel. Then the third wheel. And the last one is the escape wheel. And you can tell this one by the pointed, almost saw blade type teeth. It is a part of the escape works, which include the pallet fork and the pallet bridge. Now we can remove mainspring barrel, and we will need that eventually to do some more work with it. Last thing we will do on this side, and incidentally this side is called the watchmaker's side because this is the side that contains the most parts of the watch that the watchmaker will work on. And as you can see, our setting lever fell, and that's attached to this setting lever screw. When it comes time to put it back in, we need to put the setting lever on the dial side, which is the reverse side, and tighten it from the watchmaker's side. So we have now removed everything on the watchmaker's side, and we will flip to the dial side. As you can guess just from the name, this is the side where the dial is. So the first thing that we're going to do on this side is the keyless works, and those are these over here. And we're going to start with the setting lever spring, and that's this piece here. It looks like a plate, but it is a spring, and I am missing a yoke spring underneath this plate. And then if I had that, you could see why it's a spring, because it's held under tension. But hopefully by the time we need to reassemble again, I will have found it. And then we can look at it when we assemble. setting lever spring. And below that we have the yoke, and the yoke spring would be right here. So we will remove the yoke. Maybe. There we go. And then this is the minute wheel. And these two wheels are intermediate wheels, and they assist with setting the time. And this part that we've been working on is called the keyless works, because at one time what you needed to do to wind it up was use a key, but we no longer need a key, so we call it the keyless works. And in here would be the sliding clutch, and because I am missing the yoke spring, it doesn't want to stay in, so I just left that out. And then we have the winding pinion. So now at this point, we have all the parts removed from our movement, and we are left with the main plate. But before we do the cleaning, we do need to take care of the mainspring. And I would like to show you the parts. So let's get So we have the main plate, and once again the sliding clutch and the winding pinion, and then we have the yoke, the intermediate wheels, the minute wheel, and the setting lever spring, setting lever, and the setting lever screw is in there. And then we have our wheels, the center wheel, the fourth wheel, the third wheel, and escape wheel. And then we have the train of wheels bridge and screws, and the barrel bridge and screws. And then we have the ratchet wheel, the crown wheel, the crown ring. And I will place the barrel like this because I might be able to get this in focus for you. If you see right here on the outside here, that is a crease, and this is the cover, and it comes off. So this is all one piece where this lip is. So we will set this down on the anvil, and I will push down on the edges with my fingers and fingernails, and also keep a finger up above to prevent the cover from flying. Ask me how I know to do that. There we go. So we have the cover, and then inside the barrel is the arbor. And if we just grab onto it and twist, it will come right out. We just have to remember what side goes up. For this one, we want the squared end of the arbor to go down. And now to remove the mainspring, what we will do is grab part of the center with the tweezers, and now we will carefully walk the rest out using our thumbs. This is a very tight spring. It's wound and there's a lot of tension on this. So if you're not careful, it'll go pop and go flying. Hitting the camera, so I'll finish off camera. All right, there is our mainspring that we have removed and the empty barrel. So now at this point we are ready to clean. Okay, now we can work on getting some things washed. So these are the jars that I put my basket in. So we have step 1 is the wash, step 2 the rinse. Okay, so what we do is we put that in there, hold it tight, and we spin for a few minutes. And then we'll put it in reverse and go the opposite direction. And now drip it off before we move on to step 2. Okay. We should do 3 minutes in each of these. I'm just doing approximate here to give you an idea of the process. Now we can take out our basket. And our next step then is isopropyl alcohol to make sure everything gets dry. yoke. Get these wheels out. We'll just let them dry on this cloth. So that is the process. I won't make you sit through all of it,